officially say the base is dropped? Are we allowed to say that?
Well, no one's here to stop us.
That's true. So this reminds me kind of almost like the caddies at Bushwood. The day that the caddies were allowed into the pool. That was it. The 15 minutes that they were allowed in the pool at the country club.
Yes, 15 minutes, and they shut down the pool.
Yes, so that's kind of where we are here on a Free Kick Friday. Greg Garza will be coming up with his Beyond Goals mentoring weekly segment. It's Greg's turn, so Greg will be coming up here in just a little bit. We've got gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We'll be getting you ready for everything going on here in Atlanta United's universe here locally. We'll go through all of it. I know that we'll talk about Atlanta and Toronto, but once again, just before we get moving, this abbreviated morning kickoff is presented by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Be sure to follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Kickoff Coffee Co. Follow, like, be a part of their conversations there. Thanks to all of you who have been a part of our association with Kickoff Coffee. Go to Kickoff Coffee Co. kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your coffee purchase. 10% of those proceeds go to youth development initiatives. Very, very cool. We want to thank every one of you that is helping out by purchasing Kickoff Coffee, helping out youth development initiatives. Soccer Down Here 15 gets you 15% off when it comes to coffee purchases and everything else going on here when it comes to waking up in the morning. So be sure. Coffee's a good thing for those of you that like that. Soccer Down Here 15% off, 10% of the proceeds, youth development initiatives at Kickoff Coffee Co. kickoffcoffeeco.com. Hi, Jarrett.
Hi, John.
Atlanta and Toronto this weekend. I want to kind of get into this a little bit. Today, as we are talking, later on this afternoon, I think the great reveal is supposed to happen with Insigne for Toronto at an Italian restaurant, probably not the one that folks wanted. Why didn't you go to this Italian restaurant? No, I want to go to this Italian. It's going to be at an Italian restaurant. There's going to be the great reveal of Insigne. Obviously, he can't participate for Toronto FC for about another 2 weeks or so. But Atlanta and Toronto from 30,000 feet after what we saw last weekend, what are you thinking going into this match that starts a very interesting and tough at times 3-game roadie for Atlanta United?
I mean, this is your best chance to go get 3 points on the road. It's a Toronto team that's got issues that can't really defend very well. And aside from that, it's going to be a very interesting matchup against a team that spent a lot of energy in the midweek. They went first choice and went full bore in the Canadian Championship, and it worked for them. They beat Montreal, so Gable paid off on that front. You didn't play in the midweek, granted. You have to travel; they don't, but I'm going to be interested to see what Toronto's able to do. They still have issues on the outside, which, hey, look at that. Atlanta's got guys like Luis Araujo who can absolutely torch you if you don't have good outside help on the back with left back and right back, something you can ask Greg Garza about. But it's going to be interesting to see if Atlanta can get up in this game like they did against Miami. You don't have to necessarily score in the 4th minute, but get that early goal and try and, put a shot to the stomach of Toronto.
And that for me, get in early, get a goal early, put this team that has these issues on their heels, and put some distance between Toronto and any chance of chasing after anything resembling a playoff spot. 15 matches played, just so everybody knows. 15 points, 15 matches. They've scored 21, given up 29. That's what Toronto's been doing so far. Atlanta United is a part of that, for lack of a better word, that maelstrom that is chasing after playoff spots in the East. I mean, it is absolutely crazy what we're looking at. But yeah, when Toronto comes in and gives you that lineup that they did in the Canadian Championship, just so they could get past Montreal and get into the championship. Danny Sartini, by the way, had some really funny comments after that match about rooting for Vancouver. He's like talking to the Italian fans that are there in Vancouver. He wants his Italian fan base to root for Vancouver and not for Insigne when he comes to town. Because as Sartini says, we got a 51% chance of winning this game because it's here. I want my fans rooting for me. I want my Italian fans rooting for me. I don't want the Italian fans rooting for Insigne when he comes to town. So Sartini's already putting shots across the bow when it comes to that. But legitimately, when you've got a first choice lineup, Atlanta United ended that 3-match winless run, but they've what's the unbeaten string that they've had, 7 or 8? I mean,
I think it's 8 now.
Yeah, so
I think it's 8 unbeaten.
8 unbeaten, and
definitely to sneeze at.
Yeah, and so you're looking at what Bob Bradley has been challenged with, and it's just you're going, yeah.
Well, some of it's self-inflicted. Again, Bob Bradley rolled in there, and they decided that we're going to try and operate without outside backs. Like some of that's self-inflicted.
Yes, that is true.
Some of that is redacted around and find out. Well, you redacted around a bit. Now you're going to find out what life is like without a center back. I mean, or without outside backs. Like, it's going to happen.
Mavinga and Noble Okello could be out with lower body injuries. Jaquil Marshall-Rutty saw some action against the Red Bulls, replacing Kosi Thompson in the second half. Possible starting lineup, and this is after taking the midweek into consideration. Westberg, Petrasso, Salcedo, O'Neill, Marshall-Rutty, Nelson, Pozuelo, Bradley, Priso, Jimenez, and Akinola. That's a possible starting lineup. That's what is being looked at for a starting lineup for Toronto, going up against a possible starting lineup that could have some decent speed on the edges going up against this team that just seems like they're legitimate. It seems like they're playing in mud sometimes when they're trying to get things done, meaning Toronto FC.
Toronto's going to end up in a situation, I think, or at least you want them to end up in a situation like you saw Atlanta end up at times when Frank de Boer was here, where you get that turnover up the field and then Atlanta can break. And we've seen now, and I know people love to see that, that counterattack, transition moment. But Toronto feels like a kind of team that you really genuinely can punish in those moments because they do lack the help you would need on those outside, wing positions. Those left back, right back, left wing back, right wing back, whatever they may do, whether it's 4 or 3. They're going to be exploitable in those moments. It's going to be up to Atlanta to exploit them and to punish them. And because you think it's going to be in Toronto's going to want to come out and at least play a little bit. Issues with Bob's build aside, pun intended. Bob is still a creature of habit in the sense that he's going to want to play his way. So it's going to be up to them to go out there and create those opportunities and get forward. Well, I mean, especially with them playing in the midweek, I want to know how much they're able to do it and how those legs handle the moments where it might be, whether it's Joseph Martinez with 7 days rest after that game, Luis Araujo, Ronaldo Cisneros. It's just an obscene amount of speed on the outside that Atlanta has in the attack. Caleb Wiley, as we know, John, is very, very quick as well. Brooks Lennon just seems like his motor literally does not stop. So there's a lot of just raw speed that Atlanta brings to the table in this situation that could be a serious problem for a team like Toronto, especially if you do that thing that we've talked about in the past with Atlanta, again, Frank de Boer era, of, hey, what can you not do? Well, you can't have a turnover in play. Things need to end with a shot or a ball going out of bounds.
Yeah.
So Toronto's going to be in that situation. They're going to need things to end with the ball going out of play, whether it's a shot, whether it's a foul, whether it's a ball, going out of play, something that allows them to reset. And I think they are going to be particularly vulnerable in those moments of transition.
So then if we were doing the show open, if SDH was doing the show open for Atlanta United and Toronto FC, I turn to you and go spot shadow for Toronto, spot shadow for Atlanta United. Who are your players to watch?
I mean, I don't even know who it would be for Toronto. Honestly, even though I talked
midweek, yeah.
after the midweek might be a guy like Michael Bradley, who maybe doesn't have the legs he used to have. Actually, not even maybe. He doesn't have the legs he used to have. Michael Bradley is one of the best to do it in this country. Michael Bradley doesn't have the legs he used to have. So I don't know how much he'll be able to give you. And if you can get those transition moments, get an early yellow card on a guy like him. As far as the attack goes, I mean, if you're looking for somebody for Atlanta, I think it's going to be on that outside, getting like a Luis Araujo, who's, despite Taylor Twellman's comments about trying to unlock him more and getting him in more than just
it's to be more consistent,
moments.
Jarrett.
Instead of getting him in more than just moments, depending on how you feel about that, this feels like the kind of game he can cause problems. Also, I mean, throw a spot shadow on if it is Emerson Hyndman. What on him? And what he's able to give you, because it's a different animal in the midfield than Mateus Acetus. I think it's a little bit more attack-minded. Like Emerson, like the thing is, and as much as I love Mateus Acetus, he is more of that Darlington Nagbe, tick tock metronome. Mm-hmm. Keep things moving. Emerson will take some chances getting into the attack a bit more. I think will be a bit more aggressive if it's him. But yeah, that midfield could be interesting.
Couple of stats, courtesy of both the league and Sportskeeda. Atlanta United went unbeaten in 3 matches against Toronto in 2021, 2 wins and a draw after winning only one of the first 8 meetings between the two. One of those wins was last season 2-0 win in October, first victory in Toronto. All 4 of Toronto FC's wins, 12 of their 15 points this season have come at home, including a 3-2 victory in their last home match dating back to last September. Toronto's last 7 MLS wins have all come at home. Atlanta United's 2-0 home win over Inter Miami on Sunday, just its second win in last 9 MLS matches. 5 Stripes have not won consecutive MLS matches, including playoffs, since a 3-match run last September. Also, courtesy of our friends at Sportskeeda. What was my note? Atlanta United's 2-0 win, right? Okay, Toronto FC failed to keep clean sheets. This was the one I was looking for. Toronto FC have failed to keep clean sheets in 21 consecutive regular season games at home and are only 2 performances away from setting an unwanted MLS record. Joseph Martinez scored his 4th goal against Inter Miami last week, has scored at least 4 times against 15 different MLS opponents, including Toronto FC. Those last 2 for me, Toronto FC failing to keep clean sheets in 21 consecutive regular season games at home. And then the stat on Joseph, when I stared at that one with the clean sheets on Toronto FC, I'm like, yeah, this is a different team than the one we saw a couple of years ago.
It is. It's a different team. It's not as good defensively as ones you've seen in the past. And beyond that, what you're dealing with is, to your point, yeah, they give up goals. And Atlanta's been scoring multiple goals in just about every game, the Columbus game notwithstanding. And that was a game where Eloy Room stood on his head and made a number of saves that you thought he had no business making. So Atlanta is creating plenty of chances, creating plenty of high leverage chances, high quality chances. Now, the question for them is going to be, can they put them away, and can they throw up another clean sheet on the board? It'd be great to see, because Toronto's that team that if you keep them off the board, you're practically guaranteed a win, unless you just turn into like 2020, 2021 Chicago, who is physically incapable of scoring a goal.
Juice Box is currently, as we're breaking this down, 7:38-ish kick at BMO Field. Toronto FC at home is basically a plus 200, courtesy of our friends in the Composite Odds portal. Your draw is a plus 268. Atlanta United is a plus 121 right now heading into this match in Toronto. And just going over the standings really quickly once again in the East before we get into the rest of the weekend. And the weekend whip around will be posted later today. Jason will be going over all of the matches with all the stuff. And who knows, we might even just send him our thoughts on those matches and see if he includes them in the mix. Atlanta United right now 9th in the East, 19 points. But once again, a win out of being in the playoffs at 5-4-5 with a goal difference of plus 2. And Toronto FC, 15 matches played, 4-3-8, goal difference of -8. They've lost 3 of 5. Last time out was the 2-0 loss to Red Bulls. So that's where we are with Atlanta United. Don't forget, it is, I think it's a 7 o'clock pregame show that starts on 92.9 The Game with Mike and Jason up in Toronto at BMO Field. So be sure that you have all of your devices properly synced so you can listen to what's going on with Atlanta United in Toronto. Okay, so let's get into the weekend and kind of do not quite a full whip around since Greg Garza is coming up here at the bottom of the hour. When it comes to the weekend itself, let's play cliffhanger. So I will go ahead and I'll just mention the matches. And if there's one that you want to talk about, yell stop, and then we'll get into the matches that way. So tonight, it starts off Friday night football at TQL, FC Cincinnati and Orlando City. 3, 6, 9 matches tomorrow on Saturday. 3 o'clock, Seattle and Sporting Kansas City at Lumen Field. We got to catch up with Nico Moreno about this one yesterday, so go back into the archive.
Yeah.
Catch up with this one.
That's in all.
You going to go ahead and yell stop?
Yeah, let's stop. Let's talk about the injury. Abel Vargas is in the category of pro athletes are built different than you and I. But Vargas has been playing with a cracked leg bone, so no big deal. But he's going to be out for a bit while they get that fixed up. I saw a couple people on Seattle Twitter saying, like, so many injuries, and all I can think is, come have a seat with us in Atlanta.
Oh, it's like
this is not a pissing contest to say we've had more than you. No, this is a commiserating table.
Yes.
Not here to tell you that you're wrong or that you don't have it hard enough. No, we're not going to go boomer on this. This is a conversation of come sit at the table with us because we understand and we can talk it out together. This is a therapy session for everybody who's losing players left and right.
Please
Sporting Kansas City's going to roll into this after beating Nashville and Nashville, the first team to do that, and then dropping, I think, 6 or 7 goals on our Murder Owls out of Union Omaha in the Open Cup, which is a great professional performance. Do not let the underdog hang around, and they did not. It's a great job by Sporting Kansas City. It's something for them to build on.
Right now, Seattle is a minus 140. Sporting is a plus 363. Your draws a plus 286. Once again, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. So if you're looking at something, might want to look at that one. Starting once again, 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. DC United, Nashville, 7:30. Montreal hosting Charlotte. Then we talked about Toronto and Atlanta. 8 o'clock Eastern, Houston and Chicago. 8 o'clock Eastern, Inter Miami and Minnesota United.
Boy.
Hi, Adrian.
I didn't get a chance to give my thoughts on that because the news dropped right as Nico was coming on the show yesterday, and I jumped into the Twitch pitch just to interact with it and just to listen to it happen live because I don't know how with a straight face you go through all this. The deal had been signed in preseason, alleged from what I've seen. The reporting is that the deal had been signed in preseason, and he was waiting until all of his people got their extensions. And as Jason and I talked about in the green room, if you're going to do that and wait to announce it, maybe wait to announce it when you're not on a 3-game winless streak, including a loss to a USL League One team in the U.S. Open Cup at home where you had the lead. Maybe pick a better time to announce that. But you want to tell me with a straight face that it feels like there's just no accountability in Minnesota right now. Because Adrian Heath has 2017 and 18, I gave him a pass on more than Jason did. Just because I don't know how much he had to do with that roster build, but that roster build was absolute garbage.
The Scandinavian
over that
variant.
Yeah, it was awful across the board. 2019, you make the U.S. Open Cup run. Feels like things are moving in a positive direction. 2020 in the COVID year is actually I think they were better in 2019 record wise than in 20, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not looking at it. But 2020, you do the thing where you catch fire in the playoffs, which is all you need to do. It's why I get so irate at the idea of people saying Atlanta should punt the season or another team should punt the season. No, you get in the tournament and you see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It was Kevin Molino just was unconscious for 3 games in that playoff run for Minnesota. Then they spit the bit in Seattle in the Western Conference Final, and it's never gotten better. They got in last year, back in on the last day of the season. And they did win on decision day, but like they made life as difficult for themselves as possible, and it's gotten progressively worse. And the instability, inconsistency, I should say, not instability, because I don't know how stable it is in the locker room and the facility. The inconsistency on the field has not lent itself to confidence. And now what you're left with is a team that just cannot seem to get out of its own way, that just gave a multi-year extension to the manager. All the stuff they touted about, like the thing that made me do a spit take was touting the academy. Like with the academy, y'all didn't start for a number of years. That was a literal joke that I'm pretty sure y'all suspended during the COVID years.
Yeah.
Come on. Like Atlanta, Miami, LAFC can point to their academy from recent expansion teams. I actually don't know much about Nashville's academy, so I can't speak to it. But those clubs can.
Well, I was going to say, and we could say the same for Minnesota United. There's we don't know a whole lot about Minnesota because we can't.
We know that it didn't exist. They're not producing young guys.
No.
They're not producing a Mamadou Fall or a George Bello, or even a guy like Bryce Duke. And it doesn't even have to just be out of the academy, but developing those young players. Also, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. When people talk about designated players not living up to expectations, Minnesota is that team that y'all think Atlanta is. When you complain about Pitti, when you complain about Barco, Minnesota's the team you're looking at with this, because only one of those two teams is consistently benching multiple designated players because they're not good enough to start in that team. To start in a team that is basically, if Reynoso's playing well, we have a shot. And then the ball lands at Robin Laud's feet. Robin Laud's been a great development. Mm-hmm. Great job for them. That is one of their bright spots if you're looking for one. Also, but you want to criticize, you want to criticize Barco and Pitti when they were in Atlanta. Cool, that's fine. I think especially Barco was better than he got credit for, but that's just me. Like, you can have a different opinion. Totally cool. We can disagree on it and have drinks later. But the man was at least playing on the field. And was able to contribute. You got guys, you got Hanu, who's looking for a way to get back to France. These guys aren't even getting on the field for Minnesota, and it's Jesus, Minnesota. You want to it's bad enough to be struggling, but to give the impression that you lack aspiration to something bigger, it's almost a bigger sin. Anyway, carry on, John.
No. Let's see. Copa Tejas, Austin hosting Dallas, RSL hosting Crew, Portland and Colorado finish up Saturday. Sunday, LAFC hosting Red Bulls, Philadelphia hosting NYC, and Vancouver hosting New England. That's your Sunday matchups.
NYC's already pissed off, man. Philadelphia's going to make it so much worse. They're really mad about the Red Bulls game. People were ready to fight. Andrea threw a headbutt and missed.
And Thiago missed the headbutt.
Yeah, it's going to be bad, man. Philadelphia's going to try and climb all the way inside your skin, like Buffalo Bill style. Good luck, New York. Miss Ronnie Dyla already.
So before you go, and we got Greg Garza coming up here in just a second, the Twos start a rather, I'm just going to use the word murderous road trip this weekend in Oakland, then come back in the midweek, go to Charleston, then next weekend, El Paso comes to town, and then in the midweek after that, Birmingham comes to town. So the Twos end up with Oakland this weekend, a late night at Laney for the Twos and Jack Collison.
The Twos have got to nut up, because the last home game, that 3-0 loss to Hartford, was as angry as I've ever heard Jack Collison. There were no excuses for that at all, and it was bad. And I don't have really anything else to give you on that. It was just bad. And the effort was bad. Now you have to build off. Now you have to take that and go across the country to go play Oakland. Then you have to come back across the country and play Charleston. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be fun. Charleston, especially, the way they're playing right now under Keller, and they want to beat your ass physically. They're going to be looking for revenge because Atlanta dropped a 4 spot on them last time they played at the Action at the Fraction.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Conway had a hat trick in that game. Atlanta, worked an early red card out of Charleston. That game's going to be physical and it's going to be tiring mentally and physically. But they've got to show something. I don't know how they'll play in Oakland. I don't know if they'll be able to get a win. You better damn well show some balls though. What you showed against Hartford wasn't enough. It was not acceptable because I have seen Jack Collison get pep talk on that team when they've lost by 4 goals because they never stopped fighting, because they kept playing their way, because they had teenagers trying to get on the front foot against adults and kept getting smacked around on counterattacks. Stuff like that's going to happen. And I've seen him look at that and say, we hate the result. There's moments we got to clean up, but nobody stopped fighting for 90 minutes. And his anger at the Hartford loss was different than I'd seen before. And the lack of fight was the problem there. So who wants to jump up and grab it? Because you had a situation like this late last year. You had a game, the Twos, where things got sideways and you looked bad. And I believe he, after the game, basically said, we're going to find out who wants these minutes.
Yeah.
To paraphrase the quote from Jack, because I don't have it in front of me. And I wonder if that's what happened this week during training was hey, who wants these minutes? Because Justin Garces was the only one out there who could walk off the field with his head high. And somebody's going to have to jump up and grab these opportunities. And that's kids out of the academy. That's kids out of the academy. Mm-hmm. That's guys who've been riding the bench. That's guys who've been riding the bench. Somebody's going to have to grab those moments and take that opportunity for them.
10 o'clock at Laney on Saturday night. Jarrett, thanks for hanging out. It's time for the Friday Free Kick. As promised, bottom of the hour, it's Friday Free Kick with Greg Garza. And Greg, there are a couple of things that I wanted to get into this week specifically. But let's go back and talk about Atlanta United and Inter Miami to start things off. Now that you've had a couple of days to kind of digest what we saw, what were some of your takeaways from the last match?
It's really funny because I always use Tata's takeaways, and also I always use 2 coaches that were so good in my career, which was Tata and another coach, Turco Mohamed, which is in Atletico Mineiro right now in Brazil, but he was my coach in Tijuana, and I also won a championship with him. But he would always say, games where red cards are involved, don't even think about it. Turn the page as quickly as possible and focus on that next game, because that next game is going to be something much more important. I think when you have a red card in a game, it really throws away the tactical battle or the chess match that you can really have. And it brings out a much more a higher expectation for that team that is one up. Before then, I would love to talk before then, because I think it was a really enjoyable game to watch from Atlanta United's side. I think, even creating that red card to be a part of the game. But, I would say one word that really I can describe it was just authority. They played with a certain authority that was throughout the whole entire game, besides or beyond having the red card play a significant role in getting the win. But, I think even beforehand, you didn't see too many guys or the team in general kind of pull back or hold back, and as you've seen in other games. And there was a lot of authority, there was a lot of confidence, and so much other little key components that allowed them to kind of take charge of that game.
You had the Fantastic Four up front with Cisneros on the wing, and you get to see, and what I tell folks, and I don't know if it computes with them, is that I view forwards and strikers as artists, and there are different ways to be an artist. Like somebody could look like Salvador Dali, and it could be like this neo-cubist looking thing that is just weird looking, but it's their own style and it works for them and they're popular because of it. Then you have somebody like Luis, who is, you can just sense the three-dimensional thought pattern of how he wants to have things work, and to have a bunch of different artists in this gallery that we call Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think it's fun to watch these different artists with their different skill sets do things. And you got to see Marcelino, Ronaldo, Luis, and Joseph do different things, bringing their paintbrush to the table in this match before the red card.
Most definitely. Yeah. Who's the Picasso?
So then do we call Joseph the Picasso in this?
I would say I'd like to see what kind of pictures he'd be drawing or he'd be painting, right?
But that's the thing. It's like they all come at it differently, and it's where Joseph, sometimes it is I'm gonna put my head down and I'm gonna blow past you, and I'm gonna do things this way. Where Luis isn't afraid to launch from 25 if he sees something. And then you see, and obviously you add Thiago Almada to the mix as well, with his imagination when it comes to set pieces and how he is, and Marcy when it comes to his dribbling skills, and what we've seen from Ronaldo, with Cisneros working like we did in the Charlotte match and things like that. They come at you with all these different pieces, and I think when they're all healthy, it presents a challenge for any team, because you have to be prepared to defend for all of these different alternatives.
And I think even watching that game in particular, I love the way that you threw Almada's name in there, because it's almost as if when he is back and healthy, can you create a way to play a 5-5? Honestly, it's one of those things to where if you can have 5, as we speak, industrial guys to do the dirty work and the hard work, to allow those 5, wherever you plug them in, to just, like you said, use their own paintbrush and kind of paint away and create so much that they can create individually, but as well within a team environment, in which they did, and in which the front four did pretty darn well the last game. It was fun to watch, and I think that's the footprint, right? That's the footprint of what I think Atlanta United is all about. You take back, and you always have to go back to that successful season, or those successful 2-3 first seasons of having 4 front runners or 5 front runners that whenever they turn with you and have the other team back to goal, it's something that can be absolute mayhem for whoever the opposition is. And you want to get back to that so much, and the fan base also wants to get back to that so much, to where you have these guys with their specific paintbrush painting away or paving away the path of whatever they want in their own artistic way. And you saw glimpses of that within the last game, which is great to see.
When you talk to your mentees about being an artist in their own way, since we're going down this path of painting and artistry, are some of them almost afraid to be artists? And how do you talk them out of that idea? It's like, it's okay to be who you want to be. I would imagine sometimes that some of your mentees, they still want to be a part of a team construct. They want to be that team player, but that there's something that's deep inside them that is that artist. And how difficult is that to juggle? And what are those conversations like with your mentees?
There are a lot of kids that deal with, I wouldn't say, that problem, but cope with trying to understand the value that they can contribute, right? The value that they can use to contribute to the team, but doing so individually. It's really funny because I'm able to show, and I think that's the beauty of having mentorship and having people who have been there and done that and who have experienced those things, because I really use myself as one of those players and help them understand. And having database of tons of videos of myself of when I played early stages of my career as to when I started to maybe, and I always use this word, when I started to take risks, right? And understand the value that I could bring to the team doing so and creating risks myself individually, and how much more that grew me not only as a player, but allowed me to grow into whatever team I was playing with in the future. And that God-given talent, that talent comes within already, right? It's then the understanding of how you can, use that to the best of your ability.
And I know that especially for the younger players, it's a difficult dance because you want to be one of the guys, but in a team sport, you have to have those moments where those individual moments of brilliance show up, and you're capable of that with your own self-recognition. And it's like the way things are these days with the younger players and young athletes and high school kids and what have you, it just seems like it's a very difficult dance, and even more difficult now than it has been in the past.
The word simplicity, I think, really plays a role there, because you use the word simplicity into understanding how to take on bigger challenges with not only within your career, but also within a game, right? And helping these young kids understand that, yes, as simplicity or as simple as you can be is so important whenever you get to that next level and you start building up, but don't get away from using those characteristics that you have internally that ultimately brought you there, if that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
So turning those things inside out and understanding, okay, there are ways that I can keep it simple and use the word simplicity to take on bigger challenges within certain moments, within games or whatever it may be. But like you said from the very beginning, as long as you can have that your own artistic brush and use the best way possible and getting into that next level. And I think those guys, you use the front four that I mean, maybe Cisneros is still very young and can, follow in these guys' footsteps from, Marcelino or, Joseph or Luis. Those guys have mastered their craft, right? They have mastered their craft of understanding, okay, the word simplicity, and then also using that artistic touch, right? That final touch or whatever it may be to use whatever creativity that they can to expose themselves the best way possible, not only individually, but also team effort as well.
And one of the things that I got to ask Rob Valentino about after the match was the other side, where yes, you're used to seeing those four chasing after it, but at the same time, you saw Luis and Joseph come back and help out defensively. And I think it's something that a lot of folks either, I'm not going to say take for granted, but probably under-recognize, is the idea of them doubling back and being a part of A, your defense on set pieces, B, defending inside the box in general, and then C, being that jumping off point in transition when you get possession. It's something that, to me, I think is under-recognized this year, is the guys up front coming back to help out defensively.
And I think it almost has to do with almost what the season has been like, right? I think that's an internal push from those two guys of being one of the most experienced guys on the teams, is understanding the help that is needed, right? The ultimate help that is needed defensively. And it's huge. It can be so important for those guys. And I think, one major example that you can use is Miguel Almiron, right? Where in the beginning, it was more so he probably felt the need that, in the very first year of Atlanta United was, okay, the defense can, do their job. And once I get the ball, all I need to do is create. Whereas there's one game in particular where, I remember in 2018, the playoffs, playing against New York Red Bull away. And I pick out Miguel Almiron to be the man of the match of just how much he helped, not only defensively, but just as a whole, and help the team in so many different ways, and how much value that can bring for having one of a player of that caliber, of that, size and talent, also do that dirty work. And I think that goes to what those guys are feeling internally and how they can be, and we use that word all the time, how they can be great leaders, right? That's what great leaders do. They not only understand their value in the attack, but they also understand how much value they can and how much confidence they can give other guys that are behind them. If they see, okay, this guy is not only thinking, one-way traffic. He is understanding the full value of being part of, a team.
And at the same time, I think that with your mentees, when you can discuss confidence, it doesn't have to be something where a guy's puffing out his chest and he's like, yeah, I'm the guy, capital T, capital G. There's just as much value, I think, in telling a mentee or a younger player, you can have a quiet confidence. That aura is there. You don't necessarily have to sit there and have a megaphone and go, yeah, I'm the most confident guy here. That aura is just as important as it is with what you do, as opposed to how you say what you do.
Most definitely. You use that silent leadership as, being someone that can be followed, right? Leading by action, leading by example. And I think that showed even with Joseph and Luis and those guys coming back and helping in huge ways, allows other players to understand, okay, if these guys are able to do it, then I'm also able to step up as well. And that's great for young guys and young mentees or young players that are coming through the academy to understand that it doesn't matter what caliber, what level of player that you are, as long as you can contribute to the team in every single way possible. That's the most important thing to do.
Who is the best quiet, confident leader that you've ever been around as a player?
I've ever been around as a player. I'd love to use Michael Parkhurst, because raw type of leader. He was the guy that, to have quiet conversations with people, probably to help along the way during the games and keeping people accountable and holding people accountable and responsible for their certain actions, which was great, but not in a way to where he was screaming and yelling and, I kind of throw it, and you think about Walker Zimmerman as someone who every image you see, he's screaming and yelling and keeping people in play or whatever it may be. Every image, yeah, he's the rah kind of guy, which is great. You need both of those guys on the team, but I think in ways to where you could just step and follow in his footsteps. Michael was always great at that, and helping people understand that you don't have to be the most outspoken person to continue to lead a team in great ways.
Greg Garza, Beyond Goals Mentoring, hanging out with us here for the Friday Free Kick at BG Mentoring on the Twitters. And don't forget to follow them as well on Instagram. As we go through everything that is going through my brain on a Friday having to do with everything Atlanta United. Well, let's walk forward a little bit and go into this weekend with the matchup against Toronto. Toronto goes full bore in the midweek to try to get past CF Montreal, soon to be Impact again. 4-0 in the Canadian Championship as they get ready for their final against Vancouver at some point. It'll be interesting to see what Toronto does when it comes to the lineup, having to turn around quickly, and especially after the party that is going to be happening at some restaurant that I have forgotten now at 5:00, where they introduce Insigne to Toronto. He's not going to play obviously until the 7th of July at the earliest, but still, you have pomp and circumstance of Insigne coming to town. You've won in the midweek. You've made your statement. You're getting to the Canadian Championship, but you're struggling in MLS. When you look at Toronto FC this season, second from last in the East, it has not been a fun season if you're a fan of Big Red.
It's I think you kind of think lion mentality if you're Atlanta United, right? King of the jungle, to where let everybody else do the work and kind of beat them down, and now is your ultimate chance to kind of take over the kill. I think that's has to be the mentality for Atlanta United this weekend, and just understanding that they are probably pretty good, and how can you kind of push that dagger a little further in a team that's kind of struggling. But you never know. It's you have so many experienced guys on that TFC team that it can be dangerous at times. Will the fact that Insigne just being at the game kind of give a boost to all the other players and showing them, okay, this is what we're all about. We don't want you to be here, trying to help one of the last place teams. How can we show, a little bit of camaraderie within the team to help this guy understand that, he's coming into a team that has great values, that has, that's still intact, that's not completely dead, out of the table. But, it can go both ways.
And it was, I fully anticipate that you're probably going to have the jersey presentation. He gets trotted out onto the field. He waves at the fans. Everybody goes crazy. For those that weren't at the Italian restaurant at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, you get your cheap pop for the crowd. But one of the other aspects that I wanted to get into this with you about your mentees is travel. And these days we know that a lot of young athletes, they're traveling around the world to be in competitions to represent their clubs, whomever that is. And you have to be more mature at a younger age, I think, now, because of all the organizations that are going on. What do you tell your mentees about being responsible on the road? Because you're away from home. There's always that inclination of, hey, I'm away from mom and dad. I'm here with my buddies. I can kind of do whatever. You're kind of just doing road trips, but there's a job to do. I mean, do you get into those discussions about what it's like to be responsible on the road and how you represent yourself away from home? Do you get into those kinds of discussions at all?
Oh, most definitely. It's you talk about the ultimate professional, right? Knowing the moments when to celebrate, knowing the moments when to have fun, knowing the moments, and I think that's a beautiful conversation that you can have with anyone at a high level, whether it's a VP or a CEO presenting to their whole entire company or whatever it may be, or a professional soccer player that's dealing with a game the next day, right? How to prepare yourself. Preparation is key, right? Whatever happens after that game, and when you're successful or unsuccessful or whatever may happen, can be another story, right? But preparing yourself the best way possible and understanding the responsibilities that go behind that are huge and can play such an enormous factor on if that success is attainable or not. I think that for a lot of these young kids is understanding nutrition, decision making, hydration, rest. Those four components right there are huge in understanding how you can create that success for yourself. And even if you were unsuccessful, how you can continue to keep those a habit and a routine throughout certain days of travel. And you have some guys that we always use the example of Darlington Nagbe, who could eat 10 packs of Swedish fish and Sour Patch and a cheeseburger at night from room service and still be able to perform, right? It's whatever works for you. And you can even go back and look at Romario or Ronaldinho, and if you've seen the Ronaldinho documentary on FIFA Plus, you think to yourself, okay, this guy was going out every night before the game and still able to perform at such a high level. How does he make that work? Or Romario, who is the exact same thing, to where these guys are just able to have such a God-given talent that it really didn't matter what they did before the game, as long as they were scoring goals, right? Or creating. So there's both sides of it, but there's only 1 in 1 million of those guys, right? Every other single guy has to understand, the responsibilities and how to hold yourself accountable. And first and foremost, preparation is key. And after the fact of whatever happens in that game, then you can make, your own decisions. And okay, do I want to go out and, be with the guys, or, go to a nice dinner or whatever it may be. But preparation is key into having success on the field.
When did you hit that rhythm of finally understanding, okay, I can only do this, or this. I can't go this way too far. I can't go to my right too far. I've got to set my routine. How long did it take you to get that down, to understand who you were on the road?
Yeah, I always use this example, and I think we've spoken about it in the past, was just more so having my mentor as well, letting me know that at such a young age, watch what the older guys are doing. Watch what the oldest guy is doing. And I think from a very young age, it was more so going on trips in Portugal, or we would drive via bus, right? We didn't need to fly or anything like that because the country is so small. And then moving to Mexico as well, it was always traveling, maybe not so much in Mexico because the professionalism there, as they call it, concentration, right? That's what they actually call it. You're in concentration camp of, in a hotel, and you're not even able to leave. Whereas, maybe the rules and the regulations within MLS is that you are able sometimes, usually most coaches will let you leave. And I think my time in the MLS, the last 4 years of my career, was creating a routine for myself of landing in a certain city, not seeing the absolute beauty of every city, but more so landing in the city, finding the best coffee shop that I could the same day, going to get a nice cup of coffee, sitting around and taking a few guys with me and just kind of talking about the game or talking about anything in particular, and then going back into the hotel and getting the best rest and preparation possible for that next day. And I think that was a routine that, I allowed myself to feel very comfortable with. Whereas, other guys prefer to get to the hotel and watch, as many hours of Netflix or play video games or whatever it may be in preparation for that next day. And they're okay being enclosed in a room for, that I think that's the most interesting thing that I, have conversations about, with people, is that the amount of hours that are spent in a hotel as a professional player is insane. You fly into, and I think back to the 5 years that I played in Mexico, was you fly into a city, right? And there were some days in Mexico that you would fly 2 days before because you'd have to deal with time change or altitude change or whatever it may be. And you are 2 days, right? 48 hours enclosed in a room, and keeping yourself busy, or whatever it may be. And sometimes you had coaches, and I had many coaches that would not even let you set foot out of a hotel, right? They would have one of their the third assistant or the fourth assistant always sitting at the lobby waiting
At
for
the
someone
door.
to walk.
You're not
At the
allowed to
door.
leave, sir.
We're talking about grown men, right? So it's, there's different ways of preparation of understanding what keeps you the most comfortable. But that is such a huge topic. I think everyone is different, but there are some people that don't understand how many hours are spent within a closed room. You talk about with COVID playing a role and not in being on lockdown, right? And it's like, man, there were 5 years of my career where every other day I was on lockdown within Mexico, because most coaches, they call it concentration, and you are fully focused and concentrated on whatever the next few days are. And right. And then, when I remember playing, Copa Libertadores, or, you're traveling every other day, and within a time span of 7-8 months, you're home maybe one day out of the week, right? Besides that, even if you're playing at home, you are still in concentration. You're still staying at a hotel, even if you were playing at home. So, it's crazy to think how many hours are spent and how much preparation is needed to be successful on the field. Just thinking within that as well.
How do you keep from going stir crazy with a coach who's there at the lobby door and all of that kind of thing? How do you keep from going nuts?
I think honestly, you get used to it, right? And it's almost a moment to where, even the very first season, 2017, we had so many South Americans that came and were asking questions why guys were going out to get a cup of coffee, why guys were going out, and then it's vice versa, where a lot of the American guys are saying, why do these guys just stay in their room all day, right? And it's just, you're so used to that from a very young age, and wherever you grow up, right, you have that freedom, you have that liberty to do certain things, whereas the South American guys, they're probably so used to staying enclosed inside a room that they make it work that way, right? And it's interesting to see how those kind of two culture shock, right, they kind of hit, and you have to make the most of it in both ways.
Wrapping up the Friday Free Kick with Greg Garza. What's going on these days with Beyond Goals Mentoring?
Everything's great, man. We were continuing to grow, continuing to play, I think, a huge role in helping these kids to understand the values and responsibilities and accountabilities that come along within the mental aspect of the game, and also just other little key components. It's really fun because now I'm currently in Dallas, Texas, and actually get to watch some of our mentees from Atlanta United Academy play tomorrow, and then the playoffs for MLS Next. So it'll be really exciting to see a lot of these kids play live, and having the opportunity, hopefully, to meet with a few of them today at their hotel and then having that partnership and relationship, I think, is huge for a lot of these kids. And just knowing that they have someone in their corner, and now I get to be in my hometown and also get to see them play live. So it's a special moment.
And we'll come back with a report card on what you're seeing there next week or next time that you're with us here on SDH. Thanks for hanging out with us as always, Greg, for the Friday Free Kick at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, and follow along on Instagram. You are a must follow across the board. Thanks for hanging out with us on your Friday.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Take care, man. Happy birthday, bud.
Always great to catch up with Greg for the Friday Free Kick once again at BG Mentoring on Twitter. Let's take you around and give you the news and notes and everything else you might need to know before we send you away for the weekend. Reminder, Jason is going to be posting the weekend whip around in short order. So just to keep an eye out here, set your notifications, and get the one of the stalwarts of our Friday programming, the weekend whip around, with all the facts that you need to know for all the matchups that are going on. But remember, one matchup has been pulled from the board. It is the Cali Classico. It has been removed. Saturday's match rescheduled for September 24th following power outages at Stanford University. So Cali Classico is not this weekend. It has gone from June 25th to September 24th. Further details announced at a later date. So we also know that was part of Picks of the Week. So that one's just going to end up being a wash, and we'll have one less match to worry about when it comes to the Picks of the Week. Also on the board, fantasy. Remember, Jason Wright with the WAGEN on Twitter has gotten Patrick Smith to help out this week. And so the fantasy options that have been posted by Patrick, 38th overall. And so his lock for goalkeeper defense is Justin Glad. Lock in midfield forward, Lucho Acosta, and only 6% are owning Lucho Acosta right now, only 4% owning Justin Glad. Consider your keeper, Steve Clark for Houston at $8.5 million against Chicago, only 2% owned. Consider Luis Araujo at $9.3 million going up against Toronto, only 2% own Luis Araujo right now. Value picks for Patrick that have been posted this week: Alex Roldan at 6.3 going up against Sporting Kansas City, only 7% owned. And the rationale there, Seattle players still cheap after CCL focus early. Roldan, a goal and 2 assists in his last 4 games, adding a chance of offensive points to his defensive potential. Plus, Sporting is coming off a midweek U.S. Open Cup match. Rotation and early subs are possibilities. Value pick, Freddie Montero. Raul Ruidiaz out with a hamstring. Montero should fill in the spot, less than $6 million, only 1% owned right now. If you're crunched for funds, according to Patrick, watch your lineups though. Will Bruin could also get the start, and that would only set you back $4 million. So value picks, Freddie Montero possibly, with Will Bruin as well. Notes on U.S. Open Cup. It is going to be, the Western half is going to be Sporting at Sacramento, but the Western team will not host the final. Next week, it is going to be Red Bulls against the winner of Orlando and Nashville. So it'll be the Eastern half that will get the final. Western final is going to be Sporting at Sacramento. So that one at Hard Health is going to be a crazy atmosphere. Really looking forward to that one when that comes in the semifinals. Taking you around all of your news, notes, gossip, and innuendo. Cristiano Ronaldo is expected to stay at Manchester United despite reported frustration. He's going to report back for preseason training in July. So now we can elevate Botman and Cristiano Ronaldo into the Paul Pogba space for finally hoping that we can get some kind of a resolution at some point, just so he's out of the news windows. Christian Eriksen is choosing between Man United and Brentford. Those are apparently his final 2. The short-term contract for Brentford expires at the end of June, unlikely to re-sign for Tottenham. Once again, this is courtesy of our friends at Sky. Both clubs have made Christian Eriksen appealing offers. United's, though, is thought to be more financially lucrative, which that does make a lot of sense. Eriksen worked with Erik ten Hag when he trained at Ajax as a part of his return to football after what happened at the Euro 2020. It has its attractions. Sources close to the midfielder say he and his family are settled in London, have reservations about locating to the Northwest. He also wants to start every game to be sure of a place in Denmark's World Cup team later this year. This is something that we've been talking about a whole lot. Zach Steffen now probably the number 3 at Manchester City. Got to be looking for a spot where he can play if he wants to be the number 1 keeper for the U.S. men's national team. Christian Eriksen running through those same ideas, and it's a priority for Eriksen to be starting every game, a priority after missing out on the Euros because of his cardiac arrest. Unlikely to re-sign for Tottenham, who primarily play with 2 central midfielders and have committed to both Betancourt and Yves Bissouma this season. So interesting subplot here with Christian Eriksen and where he may end up. Nottingham Forest have agreed to a deal with Manchester United to sign Dean Henderson on loan for next season. Awoniyi is also set to sign. Nick Pope has completed his £10 million move to Newcastle from Burnley, with the England keeper signing a 4-year contract. Tottenham and Middlesbrough remain apart in their valuations of Jed Spence after their latest round of negotiations. The 50-year-old man who was arrested for a tweet after the Euro 2020 final to Marcus Rashford apparently will not face any further action. Sky Sports is revealing that public safety have decided not to charge the man as evidence did not meet their legal test. From the report from Anthony Joseph at Sky, West Mercia police arrested the man from Worcester back on July 14th of last year in connection with a tweet directed towards Rashford after the loss in penalties. File was submitted to Crown Prosecution Service in December, and apparently it didn't meet their legal tests. CPS spokesperson said, quote, "We reviewed a file of evidence from West Midlands Police, concluded there was insufficient evidence to meet our legal test. The CPS takes racism in sport extremely seriously because of the devastating impact it has on victims and wider society. Where there is sufficient evidence and it is in the public interest, we will prosecute these cases. We're working with sporting bodies and the police to advise them on the evidence required to build strong cases so that offenders can be brought to justice," end quote. And I'm just going to leave that there. When you also get into it, a 15-year-old boy has been placed on an educational program after racist abuse of Rhiann Brewster from Sheffield United for abuse that Brewster received on Instagram last year. West Yorkshire police interviewed a 15-year-old under caution in relation to the abuse. The teenager admitted the offense and he will undergo an education program. Once again, that comes from Anthony Joseph and our friends at Sky. Ajax looks like they're going to be demanding 69 million pounds. Anthony's determined to secure a move to Manchester United this summer, even though Ajax have tried to ward off interest in the winger by demanding that 69 million pound fee for his signature. Zinedine Zidane has confirmed he wants to take charge of the French national team. Once again, no surprise. Chelsea have informed Her Majesty's Tax Service, the HMRC, and the Football Association of an issue with the club's tax affairs before the recent £4.25 billion takeover. We'll keep an eye on that. Other news to keep an eye on from the Daily Mirror: Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham exploring the prospect of signing Atletico Madrid star Yannick Carrasco this summer after his release clause emerged. Cristiano Ronaldo has reportedly demanded, once again from the Mirror, that Manchester United up their game in the transfer market or he'll leave Old Trafford this summer. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. And a new chapter in Manchester United's last season revealed the Premier League giant spent more than £25 million on injured players. Keep an eye on that. Daily Star: Real Madrid said to be eyeing up a move for Young-min Son during the summer transfer window, having missed out on Mbappe and Haaland. And in the Telegraph, an automatic extension of Neymar's contract at PSG will be triggered on July 1st, despite doubts about whether the club want to keep him. Ben Jacobs over at CBS Sports has said that Luis Campos has basically said anybody that doesn't want to give their all, and I'm paraphrasing there, will be out the door. So it looks, they'll probably sign him to the extension and see if anybody wants him. So we'll keep an eye on that. Rabiot wants to leave Juve and join a Premier League club and would be available from 15 to 20 million euro. Qatar's World Cup chief has warned Gareth Southgate that any England protest would lack credibility without visiting the country to learn more about their human rights record. I'm just going to leave that there as well. And also, one note out of the Daily Record, forgot to ask Jarrett about this. Scottish top flight clubs fear that the feud between the Rangers and SPFL could be about to go nuclear as they brace themselves for urgent crisis talks. Remember all of the recent discussions having to do with the Cinch Premiership sponsorship deal and it not having to include Rangers. And Neil Doncaster apparently was shocked by that. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward as well. Once again, just a quick reminder about everything else going on the day. It is going to be Jason coming up with the weekend whip around. That'll be posted to the network in just a little bit. Broadcast plans, 7 o'clock pregame show, 92.9 The Game on Saturday. Toronto FC hosting Atlanta United, 7:38 kick. And you'll have the full-time report after the match there as well. So keep an eye on that and enjoy Toronto and Atlanta United. Once again, as we talked about with Jarrett, you've got Oakland hosting Atlanta United 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Very busy day in USL Championship. You've got 10 matches there on Saturday. You have 2 tonight, actually, out west, one in Colorado Springs with San Antonio. Big matchup at the top of the West, Vegas Lights and Phoenix Rising. Also on the board on the weekend, your League One action. You've got 4 matches on Saturday. Greenville at home hosting Northern Colorado. Chattanooga Red Wolves, after putting 7 on Charlotte, hosting FC Tucson. Tormenta Union Omaha, that one is in Statesboro on Saturday night. Central Valley Fuego hosting North Carolina FC. In the NPSL, and also that is going to be our weekly NPSL Southeast Conference show. That one will be posted to the network later this afternoon to get you ready for what's going on in a very, very crowded Southeast. The conference, once again, you've got matches on Saturday night, all 3 of them at 7:30. Just a reminder, it is LSA Atletico Lanier at North Cobb Christian taking on Apotheos. North Alabama SC travels from the Shoals all the way to Ted Mackerel to Boone to take on Appalachian FC. And Revs and Storm, that's another big one here. Storm put 7 on LSA Atletico Lanier last time out in Carrollton. Remember, Revs and Storm is at Locust Grove High School, not at McDonough High this time. It's at Locust Grove High School. All kickoffs in the Southeast are at 7:30 on your Saturday night. Let's look at the standings really quickly and the log jam in the Southeast. Appalachian FC, North Alabama SC, both at 3-1-3 and 12 points through 7 matches. 3 matches to go heading into this weekend. The Revs, 2 points back, 2-1-4. They're at 10 points. Apotheos has drawn 5 of 7 this year. They have 8 points. LSA Atletico Lanier is 2-3-2. They have 8 points. And Georgia Storm, with their first win of the year, they are at 4 points. And they are at 1-5-1. So as we always say, if you are in market and can catch some of the action, regardless of division, whether it's NPSL, UPSL, League One, Championship, MLS, go catch it and get a chance to see some of the great competition that goes on here in the Southeast or wherever you are listening to us from. If you are in market, can't make it, go through your local providers. If you're out of market, can't make it, want to watch, you can follow along to 11 Sports for your NPSL coverage. And you can also go on ESPN Plus for your USL League One, USL Championship, and MLS coverage out of market to follow your teams as well. So with all of that information out there, thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday. Thanks to Greg Garza for hanging out for the Friday free kick once again at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, and also for Jarrett for the opening segment as we went through the morning kickoff. And once again, Jason posted this, and I want to wrap on this real quick. The notes that came across yesterday with the passing of Graham Tutt, and it goes back to a lot of memories that a lot of us have that have been here in the Southeast. And Graham Tutt passed away at the age of 65 this week. And this is from Jason's Twitter account and how he eloquently put this together. Moved to Atlanta in 1980 to play for the Chiefs, stay in town afterwards to play, coach, build leagues and programs, and change Atlanta soccer forever. Graham knew everybody, gave so many people their start in the game, involved in the creation of soccer in the streets when he was part of the Atlanta Attack front office. So many kids had a chance to learn the game in his clinics through the 1980s. Involved in starting the soccer program at Life University, gave indoor soccer a huge boost during the 80s, 90s, a friend to all of us involved in the game. And from Jason, and seconding this, thank you, Graham, for making Atlanta soccer a better place and leaving an amazing legacy. So Graham Tutt gone too soon at the young age of 65, and a great piece of Atlanta soccer history here, and part of my fabric as well, learning about the game in the North American Soccer League, watching games at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, and everything from there going forward when I was a kid. So just remember Graham Tutt, remember your first influences for soccer, and what a great piece of Atlanta soccer history Graham Tutt is. And I'm going to say is and continue to do so. So for everybody here at SDH, enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Freestyle Friday. And play it safe, everybody. Enjoy the matches. We'll catch up with you over the weekend and next week.